Good afternoon and welcome again. Welcome to the very first episode of greyTruth, greytHR's myth busting webinar series designed to challenge and debunk the biggest misconception in HR and payroll. I am Shweta Rajashekar and I will be your host for today. Whether you're here out of curiosity, frustration, or just love a good myth busting session, who doesn't, right? You're in for a treat. Today's myth: you can't switch payroll software mid year. If this one has ever stopped you or your client from making a much needed change, let's just say you're not alone. The fear of compliance chaos, employee unrest, or just sheer spreadsheet trauma is real. But the good news, it's 100% solvable. We've brought together some of the brightest minds in the payroll and HR tech space to talk facts and not fear. Well, let me introduce you to our expert panel. First up, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Abhishek Mishra. Abhishek is the director at Protivity India member firm, where he leads the HR payroll and compliance outsourcing practices. With over 17 years of experience in managing multi country payroll and HRs across APAC and EMEA, he's been at the helm of major transforming projects spanning payroll automation, HR tech, employee lifecycle management, and compliance framework. He brings a strong background in technical solutioning, client demos, and proof of concept delivery. Abhishek has worked closely with leading names like Workday, Accenture, KPMG, IBM, and more, especially in government and BFSI sector. Welcome, Abhishek. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. Lovely to be here.
Great. Okay. Next up, Mr. Amit S. Amit serves as the director of product at greytHR, where he leads the product strategy and innovation. Amit ensures the tech walk the talk, smooth interfaces, smooth transition, smooth payroll. With over 2 decades of experience in HR tech and a deep expertise in payroll operation, compliance, and workforce management, he has been instrumental in designing and delivering solutions that simplify complex statutory process and create meaningful value for thousands of business. Welcome aboard, Amit.
Thank you, Shweta. Thanks for the
And finally, we meet the moderator for the day, Mr. Surya S. Srinivas. Sorry, Mr. Surya Srinivas, Vice President, Product and Engineering at greytHR. With 18 years of experience building HR tech platforms, Surya's all about turning HR headaches into seamless software solution. He's the person who makes complex HR systems feel like a breeze. Thank you for leading today's discussion, Surya. We're excited to have you at the helm.
Thank you so much, Sweta.
And now, without much delay, I'll hand it over to you, Surya, to take this session forward.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure. Welcome to all the audience and to our wonderful speakers today, Abhishek and Amit. Very good evening. Uh, Before we get started, I just want to give an overview. So many a times when we talk with a lot of our prospects, we often hear HR say that, okay, we'll wait until April to switch payroll software. Otherwise, it's a very big chaos. But is that really true? Or is it a convenient myth that holds companies back from using better systems? So once again, welcome to the Great Truth, where we are here to bust some of the most persistent myths in the HR world. So before we jump in, let's get a quick pulse of the audience. I know, thanks for joining on time. Can we launch the first poll? Okay, so here it goes. If you were to change the payroll software, when would you prefer? Would you love to change it at the start of the financial year? Or are you willing to change anytime as long as the data migrates correctly? Or you would never even think because it's too risky? Okay, so we'll give some 20 seconds for people to respond. Very curious to see the responses. Okay, let's see the results. Wow. So 35% would prefer to move at the start of the financial year. Another 60% say that they are ready to do it anytime, but 5% of them are saying it's very too risky. Now let's see. Let's get started. Hello, Abhishek. Good evening. First, I would like to discuss with you specifically given your HR outsourcing experience. So when you decided to move your customers to greytHR, what gave you the confidence to switch mid-cycle?
Well, Surya, thank you so much for having me over here. And uh, very valid question. Let me put it this way. When you want to look at the customers and let's say we approach the customers to migrate in the middle of the year, there's always some reluctant behavior what they show. The reason for this is because they are always skeptical about that. Let's say if we do any changes in the middle of the year, how this is going to get transitioned, right? There are a lot of people who are going to get involved. How the things will will shape up as they'll take that leap of faith, right? So we have to give that confidence, and trust me, great HR has helped me to get that confidence. The reason why I can vouch for it is because I've migrated a numerous number of clients on Great HR, and this helped me in the right manner. If we do the implementations, we take care of the nuances, the statutory compliances. It is evident that the things will go very smooth, and it will shape in a right manner. Okay, so this is what I would like to put it right over here when I start my conversation. The major concern what we have seen with the customers is the compliances part. How these compliances will transition when we move from one particular tool to another, whether the report's gonna come correct or not, or should they wait that the year is over. But the challenge is if they wait for such a long time, they are, let's say, 6 months more remaining, and they are exposing their risk for those 6 months more. So it is
Got
always better that they take the right informed decision and they do it there and then.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Now, moving on to our product expert, Amit. So, based on your experience and outlook, why do companies believe mid-year changes are very risky, and where does this myth come from?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I think basically it comes from the mix of fear and the tradition. Payroll, it's high stakes business. So one wrong number here and there, it impacts the compliance, finance, employee trust. So people assume it's better not to touch it mid-year. There's also a belief a regulator wants you to stick to a financial year changes kind of thing, but that's not true. They don't care about whether you're using a single software or you do with the multiple softwares. All that matter is for the accurate filings and timely filings. So I like to highlight three or four areas where people fear a lot. One is the compliance anxiety. Like the payroll is tightly tied to statutory filings like PF, PT, ETDS. So quarterly filings will be there. That is one of the point why people will feel it risky. If we switch mid-year, will the system miscalculate is another fear, whether it will calculate accurate deductions. And even a small mistake can cause notices, penalties, and extra audit queries as well. So they feel better not to switch in between. The second point will be the fear of employee impact. Payroll error hits employees directly in their pocket, late salary, wrong tracks. So they will start fearing of whether we will get more questions from the employees. The other will be the historical baggage, how we'll migrate the older data. And they would have heard some horror stories of failed migrations, lost data in transition. So this could be one. And the major thing will be the change management fatigue. I would say people will they are already filled with so many work. juggle between multiple processes. HR teams will be juggling with multiple processes like recruitment, onboarding, compliance, and the engagement. So along with this, they would usually feel this is an added burden on top of everything. So I think that's why they feel it's riskier to change in between.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Amit. I think out of all the points that you mentioned, I completely agree with all of them. And what I resonated with me is the change management fatigue, not just for HRs, I think even for the management. This is one of the biggest challenges why there is a lot of fear. And like you said, tradition. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now, moving on to you, Abhishek, again. So, what are your biggest fears when switching? You mentioned about compliance as one part, but can you explain to our audience how did you overcome, these fears?
Well, thank you so much for putting this. Now, I'll give you the first-hand information because very recently we have again migrated one of the clients and for which there was a complex situation. Example, as Amit was mentioning about the compliances part, the PF, ESI, and the related things. There was a client who was deducting PF on minimum 1,800 wages. However, the previously the vendor was what the or the partner was what they were doing is even on the minimum part, they were prorating the values and the PF was going lesser than the 1,800. And that's something which is a gray area. Ideally, the PF should never go beyond like less than 1,800 if your wages, PF wages are more than 15,000. Now, when they migrated to us, we performed a health check of that very thing, and this is the biggest advantage of moving to in the media because you can perform the health check and you can rectify your concerns there and then, rather than moving and waiting for the year to end and then the time has already passed and you will not be able to do those changes again, or maybe it'll take more time and more effort for you. Along with it, what happens is that the penalties, because now you're performing the arrear challans as well for PF. Now, if you do it right now, the penalties or the remaining the related things will be lesser compared to if you do the next year. And obviously, when the audit happens, the chances are more that you will be more penalized. So from that perspective, it really helps to do those migrations in mid of the year rather than waiting and doing it the end of the year.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Moving on again back to Amit. Amit, from your product lens, so what's the real technical challenge? Can you simplify it for our audience in easy to understand terms? Say, for example, carry forwarded balances, tax proofs, statutory filing. So, what exactly, why there is hesitation? We also have seen 35% of the audience said in the first poll that they are still hesitant. Can you elaborate on it?
Sure. So people usually assume that it's impossible to switch mid-year because payroll is complex. Actually speaking, there is no technical challenge as such, but the real challenge is about the data migration itself, like bringing the year-to-date balances of PF, ESI, or for example, it's LOP or LOP reversals. There are reimbursements happening in between. That's why the heavy lifting is on the data migration side. But once the data is in place, running payroll is just as business as usual. Think about, like, I can give you one example. I think when you are changing your phone, the phone isn't itself is a problem, right? Change of phone isn't itself a problem. The carry forward of data like your contacts or your apps or your WhatsApp history, those things will be important for you. So payroll works the same way. Once you get this data migration properly, the switch will be very simpler. One point I would like to add here is if they are using the spreadsheets, then the availability of data will be a little challenge. But definitely, that's not a major concern. We have all the data formats template ready, so we can get those data, and the switching should also be a easier one.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I love the example of the phone change. I can definitely, relate myself every time, I want to purchase a new phone. I kind of hesitate thinking, oh, what happens to my photos and contacts? But yes, that I can now empathize with all those 35% of the audience who voted for, hesitation. Thank you so much, Amit. Moving on again back to our expert who from the HR outsourcing, Abhishek. The myth actually suggests that waiting until April is a safe option. But what's the hidden cost of waiting? What exactly do customers lose? Say, for example, we are in September, right? We have 6 more months to get to the start of the next financial year. So, can you quantify the potential savings in terms of time, money, stress, fatigue, from switching sooner than later? Can you elaborate on it based on your
Absolutely,
experience?
Surya.
Yeah.
And this is very near to my heart. So let me try to explain this. So when we do these migrations in mid of the year, or versus we wait for the time that let the time pass, we'll do it in the month of April next year. That difference, what it gives you is, and I'll give you the first hand information. When we have done migration of a couple of clients, and for some of the clients who waited till April, now the ship is already sailed for the current financial year. Means you will migrate in the next financial year. And when the audit happens, you cannot do anything. You are done. Which means anything which you have missed, you have to be penalized for it. You will be penalized for it. So that makes your life much more complex, that you do the changes at after the audit happens, or your what do you say, your teams have checked the values, but now the ship has sailed. Versus when you do in the mid of the year, you have adequate time to perform those changes, take a corrective approach, and then move with the right in the right manner. It's all about how you interpret law and how you move towards the final goal, right? So we have to make sure that the client is satisfied with it. And I'll give you an example of one of my clients. Just migrated a client 2 months back with help of greytHR only, 9 entities, factory payroll, and all the modules from recruitment till exit, which means payroll, statutory compliances, everything was a party to it. We did that migration, and many of the people will not believe me, but we did the migration in 1.5 months for all the modules put together. And that was an achievement. 2 months have passed. We have not got any single concern in terms of payroll or the compliances part, because we were vigilant enough. We did the right checks and balances, health check before moving forward. And with the help of the great HR team, what happened is that we had a proper plan that how the data is to be collated and to be updated in system. As Amit was mentioning, that part, the data migration is a big hassle. If we do it in the right manner, I believe there's no question that we'll be able to move forward without any hassle.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's very motivating and inspiring to hear that so many entities got migrated in such a short time. Thanks, Abhishek, for sharing wonderful insights. Moving back to our product expert, Amit, can you explain to the audience how does greytHR simplify migration at any time of the year? For example, what are the key features or process built into greytHR that are designed to specifically address the challenge of a mid-year migration, specifically for the Indian payroll? For example, like you also mentioned about pro rata calculations of stacks and statutory deductions. Uh, you mentioned about the fear of data import. So, what kind of data import templates does greytHR offer? And is there a dedicated support team for onboarding from their existing system to the greytHR? Can you throw some light on that?
Sure. So at greytHR, we realized this problem very early on. So many of the customers need to switch in between the years, often because their old system has compliance gaps or they can't scale. So we designed our onboarding process keeping this in mind. A few things make it smooth is our, as mentioned earlier, pro rata calculations, which handles the partial tax deductions in between, or the automatic deductions of the taxes or the PF and PT. Second is our import templates. We make it very easy to migrate the past payroll and compliance data without any rework. And most importantly, we run the payroll cycles, parallel payroll cycles. So HR teams can compare the old versus new side by side before going live. And added to that, we have our dedicated onboarding team guiding every step. And it means HR and payroll team doesn't have to really worry about the disruption. At the end, employee doesn't even really realize the software has changed, except there may be a get a better payslip, accurate payslip, and easy access to our ESS portal.
Amit, I would like to add to that point. And this is also one of the experiences what we got. The client was not able to get the older payslips from the previous vendor. Now, how that happened is that from the grid HR, as we migrated the old data, which was processed information in the tool, even the payslips were enabled, and the employees did not felt that they have anything missing. The payslips were for greytHR data, which was migrated, and for that was seamless experience for the employees.
Exactly. So we will support for the previous year's data as well,
Right.
previous month's data as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amit. Just a quick question out of curiosity. So how many customers does greytHR support today? And how many employees do you process on a monthly basis? Can you throw some stats for the audience?
Yeah, sure. So we'll onboard around 200 to 300 customers every month. So that's
Wow.
our scale. So with the templates we have, with the team we have, we'll support at least 200 to 300 supports. We have that scale. And overall, it's around 3 millions now. 3 million employee payroll is processed in our system today.
3 million.
Yes.
That's wonderful, Amit. And you're talking about 300 onboardings, which is like, it's almost 10 to 15 per day on a working day. You
Yes.
onboard the customers. Wonderful. That's great to hear. Okay, so moving on, back to Abhishek. Abhishek, for a company that actually process payroll for multiple organizations, like
Mhm.
yours, Protiviti Global, right? The risk is multiplied because it's not
Yes.
just one; it's like tens of them. What would you say to someone who is in a similar position but very hesitant? Can you try to explain?
Okay. Well, it's a complex situation. Let's get over with that first. It's not that's as simple as it seems. Having said that, having the right tool and the right kind of approach is really important. When I say tool, obviously, greytHR has a lot of uh, reports and now obviously the dashboards that really helps to minimize these concerns. Along with it, what we also follow is a maker checker approach, which we call as 4I principle. Anything which has been done in the system, there's a sec checker available who checks these things, and there's a feature which we use from greytHR called Task Manager. So we can create multiple tasks, and what we do is a maker says that I have done these jobs in that task list, and it goes to checker. So the payroll gets checked from that standpoint also, and they both agree that yes, everything is as per the expectations. And once that's closed, only then the payroll is released. So that's how it really helps. Having the multiple companies, we have people who manage the show, but in the outsourcing environment, as we have, a person might manage 2 or 3 clients. So it is really important to keep a tap of everything. Every client requirements are different. However, to make sure that the things are being done right at the right time in the migration, it is really important so that the things can be taken in very easily, and moving forward in the month by month operations, we don't face much hassle. As Amit mentioned about the migration part, absolutely, I'm in agreement with him. If we do the migration in the correct manner of the data and the policies, we don't see there should be any challenges moving forward.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Abhishek. Moving back again to Amit. Amit, you have elaborated about the dedicated support team and templates. But if you can give us some very quick checklist of what process or checks actually ensure that mid-year onboarding is accurate and compliant for the audience.
Sure, sure. So if we follow a standard process, if we have SOPs built in, so first of all, we will reconcile all the historical data, salary deduction, statutory payments with the company's records to make sure nothing is missing at least. Next, we'll run the parallel payroll processing for 1 or 2 cycles just to validate the results are matching against the old system. Finally, we will verify every compliance element like the PF challans, TDS deductions, ETDS, ESI contributions to ensure everything is matching up. By the time the system goes live, both the HR and finance team would have already seen the accuracy of the system for 2 or 3 payroll drive runs. That's how we'll make sure that the validations are done, and we'll do a cost compliance verification as well. Mid-year switch is always related to a statutory compliance, right? It should match the balances. So we will do that one. The major checkpoint for us will be employee communication. So employees are the first to spot the discrepancies. So we will identify few employees in their organizations, we'll release their pay slips, we'll prompt them to check and verify. So this encourages employees to check their pay slips first in the new system, raise their queries as a crowdsourced audit. Also, we can do this. So
Got it. So, Amit, so all these things, whatever you mentioned, reconciliation, running parallel payroll processing, compliance, employee communication. Does it happen in days or does it take weeks or months? So how does it happen with greytHR?
See, for us, the migration should not take more than a week. That's what is our
Okay.
plan. We want to go live within a week. If the data
Wow,
is ready, definitely week is a longer number. We have experience of doing it in a day or two. So the data is the main game changer here.
understood, understood. So you're saying that if the customer actually comes with a proper data, migration should not even take a week. It's not, something that takes months or years. Wonderful.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think we both from the HR outsourcer and customers lens and also from the product lens, we have discussed a lot of things, right from compliance and a regulator doesn't care whether we use one system or 10 systems. What kind of reports does greytHR generate, and the use cases that Abhishek gave in terms of the PF 18,000, 1800 thing, also with the LOP reimbursements. We discussed too many topics, right? So let's take a small diversion into doing another poll. But before that, I actually want to say that based on whatever Amit and Abhishek have shared, I believe that delaying change often costs more than the disruption we fear. Okay. So with that said, let's move to the audience poll number 2. Let's see what our audience have to say. Can we launch the poll, please? Okay. So what do you think takes the longest in switching payroll software? Migrating past data, training HR and payroll teams, setting up compliance rules, or employee communication? I think Amit has already given some hint on these things, but we want to hear from the HR leaders. Amit is just a product expert, but the real HR leaders have to tell what exactly takes longest based on your understanding so far. Can we see the results, please? Hmm. So migrating past data is the top challenge. Training HR and payroll teams is the second biggest, and setting up compliance rules. I think none of the HR leaders believe that employee communication is a challenge. That's wonderful. That means you are experts of change management. So before we move to the joint insights, let's take up some questions. Uh, the first question is, how do you manage Europe payroll migrations? So does greytHR actually manage any payroll migrations related to Europe? Abhishek or Amit, one of you can take this.
Not exactly for Europe. Uh, we are looking for expansion in Europe as well, but not immediately. We can definitely check on the case by case basis.
Okay. So what Amit is saying is right now Europe is not supported. So what all countries does greytHR support, Amit?
Yeah, we support India, Middle East, and we support all SEA regions, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, all these regions.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so I think one of the audience, Devashish Sinha, was asking, can we just repeat the PF matters? Abhishek, maybe you mentioned about the PF thing and you want to add
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
So I'll try to explain that again. So when I was talking about the PF particular case, it let's say a company says that we want to deduct PF on the bare minimum, which is 1800 every month. Now, the challenge what or the concerns what the company says that the number of days, let's say, are lesser for the employees, and they come up to be, let's say, 15 days in a month, for which we are processing the payroll. However, the basic, let's say, is coming 12,000, but there are other components as well which we should include to compute the PF wages. That comes as gross minus HRL logic, in which we have to include all the components irrespective which are part of the CTC, cost to company, and exclude HRA to have the final value. Let's say that value comes to be around 21,000 after including special allowance and other components excluding HRA. If it comes to 21,000 or so, I'm just giving an example, then obviously now your threshold becomes much more, right? Let's say if you divide that value and take 12%, it becomes more than 1800. Then you will park it at 1800 and you will deduct that PF. However, let's take another example where the basic and including every component, the value comes only 12,000. In that scenario, you will not deduct 1800. You will deduct whatsoever value is coming, which means irrespective, you have to reach up to 1800 to deduct that much value if you are going on the minimum PF. However, if you're including everything and still you are not able to achieve that value, the PF wages, then you can go ahead and deduct 12% of the amount whatsoever is coming. Hope that answers that question.
Yes, I believe so. Uh, Moving on, I think, so far from Abhishek's lived experience and Amit's expert view, what's the reality? What should HR leaders keep in mind if they're considering a mid-year switch? The myth says it's too disruptive, better to wait till the start of the financial year, right? But the truth is, with proper migration support, switching can be done in few days, at max a week, and benefits actually show immediately. So, we'll get some final thoughts on the discussion so far. Abhishek, you have heard, Amit, you have tons of experience on this. What exactly are some of the thoughts that come to your mind after the discussion that you would like to share with our audience?
Uh, well, Surya, absolutely. I very much agree with Amit. But first and foremost, choosing the right partner is utmost important. Okay. Obviously, I we use greytHR for providing outsourcing services to a lot of our partners, a lot of our clients. So I can vouch for it that it works as we want it to work. Okay. We have not got many scenarios which were we were not able to tackle through the application. So I can say that absolutely is working. So being in an outsourcing environment, as we are, it's not only about the tool, but then the client expects much more from us, that we will be doing the last mile service for them, which means doing the compliances and getting it submitted as well. In case of any concerns they face, we have to go to the authorities, get those things sorted, and that's something which we help with. However, to get it done in the right manner so that those can be reduced to a large extent, we need a proper solution, proper tool, and proper checks and balances. As productivity, what we are now doing is we are also introducing some components of AI, and that is based on the data what we are getting from greytHR. So how that helps us is to do the analysis much better, and when we are sharing those analysis with our clients, that's a much better value add for the end customer, right?
Wonderful. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Continue.
So from that perspective, what I believe is doing it at the right time. It's utmost important. The reason is because if I can share one more example of and more
Absolutely. Yeah.
experience of mine, when we were doing these migrations, one of the scenario what we have faced is uh, the client. Okay, I'll take another example because this is something which is very it was very much highlighted in the market. So I'll not be able to say share it. Many people will know the name of the client, and we have some NDAs with the client. But I'll share another scenario. It was a scenario where we have done some audit for a respective client. What happened is this client was the in 2014 the rule changed, and the limit of PF got changed from 6,500 to 15,000. But till 2019 they were deducting PF on 6,500 what say limit only, and none of the checkings have happened in the right manner. Now the client faced the challenge of penalties. So we went there, we checked all those nuances, and then obviously we put the data in the tool as well, so that we are in greytHR tool only, so that we will be able to get the exact values. And this really helped us to move forward and get the right to give the right and informed decision to the client, that what they should go and how they should go and deposit and get rid of this concern. If I have to give you the example, the value, it was more than 3 CR of penalties what the authorities have levied on them.
Wow.
And so we were able to save a lot of money for the client. However, the things are almost on the verge of ending now. But yeah, that was one of these cases what we have handled, and with the help of greytHR only, we were able to compute the values in the right manner, even though for it was for the previous years.
Oh my goodness. I have always heard about penalties. I recently read some article about a Gujarat factory which delayed payslips and there was a fine of 35,000. And I think it can go up to 50,000 or some kind of
Yes,
imprisonment, but 3 crores is a huge number.
it's a
This
huge
is the
number.
news to me. Thanks a lot, Abhishek. Now, I believe me and a lot of other people in the audience would also understand not just the greytHR app, but also the right partner who actually process is extremely important. So, Amit, do you want to share your final thoughts, please?
Yeah. My view is very simple. Payroll is not an annual process. It's a monthly process, right? It's like a monthly heartbeat of the company. If the heartbeat isn't steady, you don't wait for the next 6 months to see a doctor. So you fix it now. That's exactly what you have to do with payroll. With the right tools, mid-year payroll processing transition is not a problem at all. They are smooth, faster than most people imagine. We have evolved, the systems have evolved. So the real win is you stop losing time, money, employee trust by sticking with a legacy system that isn't serving you. So the switch will be much better if you do it today instead of waiting for the end of the year.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. So, just to summarize, what we have learned today is we have heard Abhishek, who not only made a successful mid-year switch, not to one, but to tens of companies, but also did it at a big scale. And we have also heard our product expert, Amit, who explained the technology, processes, checklists that can make it possible. So, it's clear that the myth of you can't change payroll software mid-year isn't just a half truth, it's an outdated fear. Right? So now, before we move on to the final segment, let's actually launch our poll number three. Uh, the third and final poll, please, for the audience. Okay, so if you wish to explore switching your payroll software mid-year, would you be interested to learn more about greytHR's award-winning and impactful payroll software? I'm expecting a lot of people would say yes. Uh, in any case, I think perhaps the real question isn't you can't change payroll software mid-year, but can you afford not to change based on whatever Abhishek has explained? It blew my mind looking or hearing the penalty. And if your payroll isn't serving you today, why wait for April to start fixing it? So I think the cost of waiting, like Amit mentioned, is very higher than the cost of switching. And Abhishek also attested that with the right partner like greytHR, media transitions are not just possible, but they're extremely smooth. So with that, I would like to hand it over back to Shweta. All over to you.
Thank you,
You
Surya.
we can also see if audience have any questions before we move on.
Sure. If any one of our audience have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat, and our experts will be able to answer to your questions.
Looks like the myth is busted so clearly that people don't have too many questions other than those one or two about Europe payroll and Provident Fund.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, I don't see any questions coming up. I think it was a great, insightful session. Thank you for this fantastic session. Thank you, Abhishek and Amit, for those valuable insights. It has clearly busted the myths. And it goes without saying, as we are not, we see we don't get any questions. So thank you, Surya, for moderating the session. And that brings us to the end of our session today. A big thank you to our speakers and to all of you for joining. This is just the beginning. greyTruth is a webinar series, and we'll be back with more episodes busting the biggest myths in HR and payroll. So don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn or check out our website for updates and upcoming sessions. Until next time, stay curious and keep challenging the status quo. Thank you so much.